Hey there, this is Anthony from mycodeteacher.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to do a simple custom view swap. So basically what I mean is we're going to create an application in which you have two views, and by the simple click of a button, one view is swapped out and another view is swapped in. There are classes that already exist with CocoaTouch that allow you to do these in specific ways. For example, a tab bar controller in which you have some buttons on the bottom in a tab bar, and by pressing on one a different view comes up. But we're going to do this in our own way with some custom code so that you can see how views work together and how you can add subviews and remove them and that whole deal. So of course, let's begin by creating a new project in Xcode. We're going to choose window-based application, and we'll name it view swap. So first, let's open main window.zib and actually create some views to swap. So of course, here we have our main window.zib instances window. Here, we're going to create two views, and these are going to be the views that we swap in response to the pressing of a button. So navigate to the library window. Of course, if you don't have that open, you can open it navigating to Tools Library. And scroll down until you find UI View, and we're going to create two. So the first one, we're going to put a text field that says View 1, and a button on the bottom that, when pressed, will swap out this view and swap in the other one. Now let's create another view. We're going to copy what we have on the first view, paste it in the second view, and then change View 1 text to View 2. Now, of course, these views are not actually going to serve any purpose and simply decorative, but they will allow you to see how this all works together. Now, so that we can differentiate the views by looking at the instances window, let's actually change the names here. View 1, and the same thing for here, View 2. Now, we actually need to go back to Xcode and do a little coding here. So first, we need to create some interface builder outlets and connect these to the views that we've just created so that we can actually swap them out with code. IB outlet, UI view, view 1, and IB outlet, UI view, view 2. Be sure to save this, otherwise Interface Builder will not reread the view swap delegate or view swap app delegate.h file and won't list these as outlets. After you've saved, go back to Interface Builder, and now let's actually connect these outlets to the appropriate views. So click and drag, or right click and drag to View 1 and connect the View 1 outlet, and the same thing for View 2. So now remember, what this means is that we now have two instance variables that belong to the View Swap App Delegate class, which of course this is an instance of this class, and these two outlets are instances of UI View. So we have one outlet called, or one instance variable called View 1, and so anything that we do in code to View 1 will be done directly to this view, and then we have another instance variable called View 2, and anything done to that in code will be done to this view here, View 2. So these are connected. So the instance variables that we've just created are connected to these instances of UI View. Now, let's go back to code here and create a swap method. So of course this has to be an instance method, IB_action swap. Now we make the return type IB_action so that Interface Builder knows that this is an action that should be listed in Interface Builder for the ViewSwapAppDelegate class. Once we save this, we can go back to Interface Builder and connect these swap buttons to this action. So we need to do this for each view. Right click and drag from swap button 1 to the swap action on this instance of ViewSwapAppDelegate, and do the same thing for view 2. So now both of these swap buttons in view 1 and view 2, when pressed, will send a message to this instance of ViewSwapAppDelegate and tell it to execute the code in the swap method. Now let's actually fill out the swap method code. Okay, so first we need to actually figure out which view is currently in the window. So we're going to be adding these views as subviews to the main UI window instance. So we have a window here, a default window, and this of course is the window that shows up when the application first launches. And so simply by adding either view 1 or view 2 as subviews to this window, they will be displayed in the window. But again, since both swap buttons trigger the same swap method, we need to use some code to figure out which view is currently in the window. So right now we've called to the subviews method. We've sent that message to window, and that returns an array, which we've stored in subs here. An array that contains all subviews of said window. So now what we've done with this line of code is we know that we're only going to have one subview because we're only adding one view at a time. So at any given time, our main window here is only going to have one subview. So this array will only have one object in it. So what we've done here is we've sent a message to the object at the 0 index of the subs array, which of course is going to be whatever view is currently in place, and we've sent a message to it saying remove from superview. UI views respond to that message by removing themselves from their superview. So basically what we've done here is, let's say for instance that at this point in time, view 1 it was currently in the window, currently being displayed in the window, or was the window's only subview. What we've done here is we've said view 1 remove from superview. And so view 1 will remove itself from the window. And now the window will at that point have no subviews. Now what we need to do is figure out which window or which view was last in window. So now we're going to do simply a check against the pointers. So if the only subview of window was view 2, we're going to add in view 1. Add subview. So we use the add subview message. We send a message to window, add subview, and we tell the view that we want it to add in. So basically this if statement says if the last subview, or the only subview of window that was returned in the subs array was view 2, we're going to now add subview view 1. And we're going to do the same thing basically backwards. If subs object at index 0 equals view 1, we're going to add in view 2. We close the method. our swap method will now correctly work. So again, first, we return all the subviews of window, and again, at any given time, there's only going to be one subview, either view 1 or view 2, because that's the only subviews we're adding. Then, we're going to send a message to that view, which again we can get by using the object at index method and send it to this array of subviews, because remember, this is an array that contains all of the window subviews, and we know that this array is only going to have one object because window at any given time will only have one subview, either view 1 or view 2. We send a message to that object at index 0 and tell it to remove itself from its superview. So we say either view 1 or view 2, whichever you are, remove yourself from window. Then we do an if statement. If that view, which was previously the window's only subview, is view 2, we're now going to add in subview view 1. Otherwise, add in subview view 2. At this point, when the application first launches, it'll actually still display a blank window because we have not yet added either view. So what we want to do here is we want to go to the application did finish launching method and add view 1 as the default initial subview. So when the application first launches, view 1 will be Windows only subview and will be displayed on screen. So now if we launch the application should launch with view 1 being displayed. And if we click the swap button, view 2 should be swapped in. Now you can see that everything wasn't correctly aligned, and if you were making a real application, you would want to make sure that it were. But here you can see that with some pretty simple and easily understandable code, we can make our own custom view swap, and you can do this with as many views as you'd like. Well, I'm Anthony from mycodeteacher.com. I hope you learned a lot in this lesson, and I hope you tune in for future lessons. See you next time.